everyone, welcome back to Geek Out SA. We're here, it's Friday and we're having fun. I'm here with Josh. How's it going, Josh?
Hi, good.
From Ruckus Games. So, we've had some issues, and but now we're here. So, tell us, Ruckus Games. Everybody knows that from watching that I do tabletop games. So I do board games, card games, RPGs, and stuff like that. But there's also other people here in San Antonio that do that as well. And you haven't been here that long.
No, about a year and a half now.
About a year and a half, yeah. And so tell us, what is Ruckus Games?
Well, it's me and my wife. She doesn't always like to claim that she's part of the company. I don't know why. She helps me quite a bit with designing, but mostly what we build, we like to focus on things that are a little more, I guess, family friendly kind of stuff. A lot of the things that we've worked on have, I'd say, mid-weight kind of games that I'm looking into making. You know, I'd like to make some things that are a little bit heavier. But the main game we've got, Honey, is it's definitely more of a, I guess, a gateway friendly game. A lot of people who've played it have said it's a good game for people who don't.
Yeah, and if you don't know what a gateway game is, it's kind of like an introductory, kind of like get you into the what am I trying to say?
The hobby?
Into the hobby of gaming, of tabletop gaming, and it's something that's kind of easy to grasp. Because a lot of times when you're new to it, you don't want to really a whole bunch of like rules and not know how to play something because you have like a booklet of things, of rules that you have to abide by, and that's why I try to deal with a lot of my games. I try to not make them so dense with rules that it makes it more difficult than it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely, I like to focus on like a solid, fairly easy to understand, easy to teach core mechanic. Honey, there's really only like a couple of rules to it. It's very straightforward. It's like on your turn you either draw a piece or you place pieces on the board, and it's just kind of it's standard match 3. I would say that when teaching the game, sometimes people just the strategy to it takes them like a few turns to really get the flow down, but even people who don't like these games that or don't play games, everyone seems to within a few turns really have the flow of the game. And,
very nice, very nice. So this is the game here, Honey.
Yeah. So this is this is the only box I have for it. But technically, this is an older version of it. It used to be an abstract strategy game. And I really was pushing towards like the minimalism and things like that. But I had a number of publisher type people and designer type people who said that people will see this on the shelf and they will think that it's a Hive knockoff, even though it's absolutely nothing like Hive. And I actually asked a bunch of people who were not designer or publisher type people, and most of them said that they either didn't even think of Hive until I brought it up, or they thought of it for like a moment, but then on second glance that they realized that it was absolutely nothing like it. But I decided to go ahead and change to a themed version anyway, and actually, so this is our current board design. Stephanie Gustafsson, she's a graphic designer. I think she was involved in like Coop, and she's been involved in a number of other games. She helped me design this, and unfortunately I do not know how to pronounce the name of the guy who did our bees, because I don't know if you can see that, but because she could do everything except characters, basically. So we had to have somebody else do the bees. But yeah, so we have this kind of steampunk. I like to call it like sugar punk or nectar punk, because it's very bright, and steampunk's usually very
very dark,
brown. So the bees are like, they're little robots. And back here on the tail end is where they hold the honey or the nectar. Yeah, and then there are random gears here that are maybe not all that practical, but like, see on this one you have these pipes. They carry the nectar.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I see that.
So basically,
that's an interesting like genre.
Yeah.
That you've had with that, because I would never have thought that kind of genre with a game called Honey.
Yeah, we I don't know, we were just trying to think of like, how could you theme it, because I mean I like the bee theme, but there have been a few games that have done the bee theme lately, and I didn't want to get like too lost in sea of Me Too's or anything like that. So I like to come up with, I really want it to stand out, basically.
Right.
So whenever it came up, I think my wife brought it up. It was like, yes, that's absolutely like steampunk bee. My wife hates the brown color scheme.
Yeah.
So we have to make it bright so that she, and it really worked, because it's got...
It draws your eye to it, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and this, whenever I got the initial proof of concept for this, I was like, oh my gosh, this is beautiful. You've got to keep the clouds the way they are. And we kind of went with it from there, like this is a floating island now that's up in the clouds, and this is...
Are you able to see that on there, on the board?
Yeah, and this is like a power plant, and they're in a world that's powered by glucose, which is a real science, and you're delivering nectar to this power plant so it can power everything. And,
nice.
And the byproduct is the honey that you then collect, and at the end of the day you sell it to gain some more money. So, yeah. And
how was that done on this game?
So the way it's done on this game is you collect these tiles. They're all in the four corners here. There's places where there will be stacks of 18 tiles in each corner.
Okay.
And they're all bee side up. And you collect these bees, and you have them like in your I guess you have your little stock of bees that sits in front of you, and everybody has their stock of bees that sit in front of them. And then whenever you're able to place them in such a way that you have three of the same color adjacent to each other, that could be 3 bees or a mixture of bees and honey.
Okay.
It's like you're putting your bees to work, and they will deliver the nectar and then collect any honey that was involved in the match. So it's basically just a match 3 kind of game, but it has a unique mechanic of the fact that once you place them down, you then collect any honey that was on the board, and then you flip them over, and then you have basically, this is the byproduct. So they delivered the nectar, and now you flip it over to the honey side. Now there's this honey that's here for someone to come and collect later.
Okay.
So every time you're placing the pieces down, you gain a little income based on the number of cells that you activate for your match, and then honey shows up on the board, and then and then other players can now use the honey that you put down potentially in to make their own matches. So it's kind of some of the strategy around it comes in the fact that, you know, every time that you lay down, you're potentially helping out other people, so
this is a cooperative game, or
no, it's competitive, so you have to be careful. There's a tendency, and it's actually really interesting to me. There's a tendency to, like, okay, so I have this one with the yellow. Let's say I had these two down here, and this one has green on the back of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's this green piece right here. There's a tendency to people to be like, okay, well, I want to set that right next to this green one, because then I'll flip it over and it'll be right next to another green one. But it's actually counterproductive, because now you're not going to pick up those green ones. They're still going to stay on the board. And then somebody else can now come along with just one green tile and collect those, you know, and get points.
Okay, yeah.
So you actually wind up helping out your opponents, and, you know, you don't want to help out your opponents. You want to win. So yeah, it's there's a lot of strategy to how you place them, where you place your pieces.
Do the colors have anything to do with the players, or it's just random?
No, they are random, but there are 4 stacks. So originally I had them in a bag and you were pulling them out.
Mm-hmm.
But it was too random, whenever, I don't remember why I decided one day that I should just have 4 stacks of these, and then I played with it and I realized, oh my gosh, this is, like, it's so much more strategic. So
mm-hmm.
yes, there's still the randomness of you don't know what's going to come up in those 4 stacks, but you've always got 4 options. I mean, sometimes it'll be like 3 of them will be the same color, and
right.
So you don't have really 4 options. You have like 2 options, but that, you know, that amount of control. I think the balance between the randomness of the tiles and the ability to choose between the 4 options that are there really like works out pretty well. So
very cool. And this is a prototype.
This is a prototype. I actually printed this at Office Max, and there's a little tiny, you can't even see it unless you're really close to the board, pink line right there.
Uh-huh.
So they gave it to me for free. I got 3 of these.
Nice.
Yeah, it was nice. And then I had these printed from Print Games, which is owned by AdMagic, and they do a really good job. And their cardboard is fairly inexpensive compared to other people,
mm-hmm.
other companies.
Well, I know as indie game developer, I know that what I use a lot is the Game Crafter.
Yeah. And
I don't use AdMagic as much, just because I'm able to control what I'm doing on the Game Crafter a little bit better. I'm a little more vested in that.
Yeah. So what I like about the Game Crafter is that you set up your. It's actually a thing I like and don't like at the same time about the
mm-hmm.
Game Crafter is that you set up each game and then you tell them like what pieces belong in that game, and then you can just order copies of the game
mm-hmm.
or whatever. The thing I don't like about it is, and I've never actually ordered something for the Game Crafter because every time I've tried to price it for what I was getting, it was always cheaper. Because I do paper, I do cards, all that kind of stuff,
mm-hmm.
just myself. I just print it. I have a paper cutter, and
mm-hmm.
I just cut them. But cardboard is what I need.
Yeah.
And I haven't once found the Game Crafter to be as cheap as Print Play Games. Now, I think the Game Crafter probably has better quality
mm-hmm.
Overall than the Print Play Games, and that's probably one of the things.
I really like their card stock.
Yeah. But Print Play Games has 48 hours. They will mail it within 48 hours of you placing your order, and they mail it 2-day shipping. So within 4 days of submitting your order, you will have your prototype.
Very nice.
And it's guaranteed the 48 hours to mail it, or else you get your money back for it, and they'll still ship it to you. You know.
Cool. We do have a question from the viewers right now. They're asking. Black and Silver Diamonds ask what program do you use to illustrate?
So I used to use, and I think it's great program, Paint.net. If you have Windows, it's a great program to use. It's free. I have also used what's it called, Clip Studio Paint, which they've always got sales on. It's like $50 and that's it, you know, and you get the whole thing. It's very close. It's a good Photoshop alternative, and because it has a lot of that depth. It's actually it's one of the standard industry standards in the comic book industry. It's one of their standard things. There's a lot of anime stuff. They used to be called like Anime Studio or something like that. Now I use Photoshop and Illustrator because they offer an education discount, and we homeschool, so I was able to get that, and that makes it like it's still expensive if you don't have a good use for it. But everyone does Photoshop. That all the artists do Photoshop, and Clip Studio will open the Photoshop documents, but they use like masks, and Clip Studio doesn't support them. So all of these files I have for Honey from the Illustrator, I can't see them, the Photoshop version of them, the way they look when they're flattened whenever I get the PNG image, and I want to be able to edit them and make my own changes to them and use pieces of them for different things. So I just decided to go ahead and bite the bullet and do the Adobe thing, because there's that, and there's also, they have video software and stuff like that. So Illustrator and Photoshop is now what I'm using. But
if you're a student or a teacher, it's worth it to get everything that you get for the price.
It's $20 a month for you get Photoshop, Illustrator, you get their Premiere, which is wonderful for making videos, and Audition, which is great for audio stuff, and the PDF thing where, you know, what do they call it? For where you can make PDFs and stuff. So
the Acrobat.
Yes, Acrobat.
Yeah. So you said you homeschool. So how do you use games? For homeschooling education.
I don't know that we have done a little bit with games. I know that my wife, I helped them out with cutting out this. They played this game where you throw these lions onto a board that has a few deer, and they eat whatever deers they land on. And then the number of deer double. And then you throw the lions on, but any lion that doesn't land on a deer starves and they go away. And it was to show how nature works, where the number of lions grow whenever there's enough food, and the food shrinks. But then whenever the food gets too small, then the lions start dying off, and then the food starts to grow again. How nature balances itself out. And then I will say I got this game because I'm a programmer. So my daughter, like every parent, you kind of want your children to like the things you like, and your children want to be like you in some ways. So I really try to like introduce my daughter to STEM stuff, especially because, you know, the girls in STEM thing is like a big movement right now, and it's great. So I started her out with robot turtles, which is pretty fun. It has like card that says move forward, one turn left, turn right, and she really enjoyed it. But it was a little too simple for me at first. But recently I got her this game called Code, and it's basically like 40 challenges. They have this little robot. It's a cardboard, little robot thing, and then they have 6 slots, and they have 6 cards. That each challenge says these are the 6 cards you can use, and you have to figure out which slot each card goes in for the robot to make it from the start to the end. That is an amazing game. As a programmer, it's a game that helps you to think like a programmer. It's kind of abstract because you have to lay out the cards and then you test the program to see if it works. And then if it doesn't, you have to debug it by figuring out, okay, well, what did I lay wrong, and swapping them around, and it's really fun. And I actually went towards the back of the book, and there was there's beginner, intermediate, advanced, and expert, and the last advanced one, it took me probably 30 minutes to figure out how to lay those 6 cards down to get this one to work.
Wow.
And then I looked at the experts one, and the expert ones, they don't tell you what cards to use anymore. And you've got 18 cards to choose from, and so you're like, which ones do I use? Yeah, and so they're pretty challenging. I don't think that she'll make it to the end of the blue section at this point, but it'd be a nice thing to.
So this game, you have to use your mind a lot because you have to strategize in it.
Right. Yes.
So this is something that would kind of be used in an educational setting as well.
Yeah, and I've actually when we played this on Tabletop Day, I had this family that played, and it was nice because it's the first time I've gotten to actually just stand and watch 4 people playing the game, and it was mother or grandmother or and some kids that ranged, I'd say, from about 8 to 13 or something like that, somewhere in that range. And they really enjoyed it. And she said that she works, I don't know if she said she was a teacher or she worked in a school or something. I think she said she was a teacher. She did some kind of a school program at least. And she said that her kids, that she would love to bring it to school and show those kids. Maybe it was like an after school program or something. But she said she would love to use it to show those kids. I don't know what exactly the educational benefit is, but I mean it's good for.
It's definitely something that makes you think.
Yeah, and learning to strategize and because it's a fairly simple game to learn, but the strategies, and as you play it, you learn more ways to strategize, because there's a balance between do I place the pieces on the board, and do I keep them for a while? Do I want to place? I have 3, I can place them on the board, but do I want to wait and grab a few more? There's also there's a chaining thing. So if there's 2 greens here, and you place some pieces and you flip them over, and one of yours is green on the other side, and now you've got 3 greens together on the other side, then you make it an additional match, so you can make multiple matches in a single turn. And then there's a mathematical aspect a little bit, because basically when you play, your score is the number of pieces you're going to play minus 2. So I mean, it's not a difficult math thing, but you think, okay, well, how many pieces am I going to make? How many points will I get for that? Because when you play more than 3, you get additional points, and that's actually like placing 4 is worth twice as much as placing 3,
Right.
So, and then also any pieces that you collect will also be worth extra points. And the more advanced modes, I played with the local developers. Actually, I played with Sarah and her husband, and there was another guy.
Sarah and Joe, they're from Play.
Child's Play Games.
Child's Play Games.
Child's Play Games and Geekery. Yeah. There was another guy that was not a developer, but he's like avid gamer, and they brought him because he teaches games.
Yeah.
So they wanted to see what he would think. But we played an advanced version, and there's these cards, and they have multipliers, and you can have one that has ×2 multiplier, another one that has ×3 multiplier in 2 different colors, and another one that has that gives extra points, but it has a limited number of pieces you can place on it. And then that one, you've got even more of a balance where you're like, okay, well, you know, where do I put these, and like how many points is it going to be worth if I put it over here versus put it over here, and that kind of thing. So
yeah. So how many players can play? What's? So
I've played this with 4. It's great with 4. It's great with 2. I prefer it with 2. But honestly, I prefer games with 2 a lot of times. So and it was definitely built it for at least the first year of development. I never played with more than 2. But then when I expanded to 3, it played just as well, you know, overall. And then we expanded it to 4, and that's been really fun, and I didn't really have to change anything. But I'm wanting to test it with 6, but I haven't been able to get a group together that was big enough to test it with 6. But testing it with 6 would require, there's 72 pieces, 72 tiles in it now. Playing with 6 would absolutely require 144 tiles instead of 72. Because 72, that's like 12 each. So you're gonna make like 4 matches if you're lucky, you know, kind of thing. So it's just not enough. You know, you don't get enough. And I'm not really sure about the downtime. It's a very fast game.
Yeah.
Like, it goes around the table really, really fast most of the time. But with 6 players, you know, I mean, it's still 6 players.
What's the youngest that you suggest playing this?
Well, legally, I can't go below 8 without poison testing and all that other stuff. But I would say that, well, the group that played it, they seem to get it really well. That I think the lady said that she thinks that you could go like down to maybe even like 5 or 6, you know, with it, because, you know, as long as you have an adult that knows how to play it, that can teach them how to play it. And there are some more advanced strategies to it, but like there's a rule, and I'm not going to do this with matching pieces probably, but so there's a rule whenever you're playing the pieces, and my wife hates this rule. She does because it's complicated. But you know, it's part of the strategy thing, and it is something that people who like your strategic games really like about it. That you can place as many pieces in a match as you want to, as long as, imagine these 2 are purple. There's no 3 in a row anywhere until you place the very last piece down. So here you'd have a group of 2, a group of 2, and a group of 2, and then you place the last one. And that's what connects it all together. And it's more complicated rule, but it really pushes, because sometimes there'll be things in your way, and you'll only, like, the only way you could get a match is like right here, and this kind of match is illegal because there's no way you could lay that match without there being 3 in a row before you lay the 4th piece, or 3 in the group before you lay the 4th piece. But when playing with younger people, I suggest, you know, you play by that rule, but you don't make them play by that rule. And that does a pretty decent job of balancing it, because that rule has a pretty major effect on how you can play the game. And I've seen it, there have been a number of times, in almost every game, there's at least once where I can't make the match I want to make because of that rule. And so, you know, it really affects things. I actually made the rule. The thing that made me think of the rule was actually because my daughter, she likes to collect things. So when she plays games, she likes to get a whole bunch. So she had like 10 pieces of the same color, and then she was like holding on to everything till like almost the end of the game, and then she's like, I'm just gonna throw all these things down. I want just like fill up the whole board with the same color.
How long does a basic game take?
It's about 15 to 30 minutes. Early on, it takes about 30 minutes, but once you've got the game down,
and that's a really good intro game. I mean, I would say like 15 to 30 minutes is good intro. Yeah. After that, when you try to introduce somebody to an hour, 2-hour game, don't do that. That's not an intro game.
I agree. Yeah.
Unless it's like an RPG, but that's different. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, no, I didn't make it to be that short, but well, I like that. Sometimes whenever games are that short, it's because they're shallow, or it's because they get cut off. And like my wife loves engine builder games, and what's annoying about a lot of engine builder games is they cut you off, like right whenever you're starting to get going. They're like, it's over. You're like, why? But we actually worked on a game that had a little bit of a like engine builder type thing. It was another B game. It's actually I made this game. I put it to the side for a while, but then I picked this back up because I was working on that one. I was like, oh, they're both B themes. So but that one. It got to a point after a certain number of rounds where the engine building started to break itself. It's like you get too much.
Yeah.
You get too powerful, and then you're just doing all kinds of stuff, and then it kind of gets boring because you run out of things to do or whatever. So my wife suspects that most games that cut you off, that's why they do it, because if they went another round, then because they realized if we let people go another round, then the game's just gonna break, and then nobody will enjoy it anymore. So.
Very cool, very cool. So this is not your first game, but it seems to be the one that you're concentrating on right now.
Yeah, the game that I kind of started working on around the same time as I did this one. Technically, it was a little bit before this one. It was a co-op game about you're trying to escape from a smart house that has turned evil, basically, and it would shuffle the rooms around.
From a programmer, what else would you think?
Well,
it's funny because I'm a programmer too. Yeah. And I created a card game about technology. Yeah. With app, and I don't know. I don't know if it's a thing that programmers like to make tabletop games. In this case, it's true.
I have seen that there are actually a decent number of programmers in the game, in the board game designer industry. I was actually, I don't know why I was surprised, but I have found that a lot of programmers have this technology rejection. That it's like I spend all day, 8 hours a day on a computer. I don't want to look at a computer anymore after I get home. I guess that's what it is. But I have mine. Sorry. But at the time I had actually recently installed a few smart accessories in my house too, like some smart light switches that I could control from my phone, stuff like that.
Nice.
I will say...
I started doing that with Alexa.
I will say that making a co-op game as your first game, not necessarily.
That's kind of tough.
Yeah, co-op games
they're tough.
They're very difficult to balance.
Yes.
And
that's why I haven't made one yet.
Yeah. Yeah. I was actually fortunate with this one. This one actually has a solo mode too. It actually has 2 solo modes.
Mm-hmm.
Originally, I designed this game, and I was going to be like it's kind of like a kit, and you can make your own games with it, you know. And I was going to have the community design some games and stuff like that. But it kind of got away from me to where that's not really maybe necessarily something anymore. But I made 2 solo modes for this game, and I was fortunate enough to be working on that around the time that a solo competition came on BGG, their print and play yearly solo competition. So it was the first time I ever let any of my games, let anyone try them that didn't live in my house. And I was really nervous. I was like, this is just opening myself up to criticism and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
And I really wasn't sure how to balance like winning or losing the solo game and like all that kind of stuff. But the community in those competitions is often very, very nice. Very, very good community. And they, let me know, like, they helped me to figure out how to balance that portion of it, and actually won third. I got 3rd best abstract strategy and 3rd best new designer.
Very nice, very cool.
So it was really nice, and that's actually what like kickstarted me forward to. I should do something. I should like start focusing on this game and make it something that I might do something.
So what are your plans with Honey?
So there is a publisher currently looking at it. It wasn't as soon as I got this artwork. It was actually shortly before I got the current artwork. Shortly after I got the like proof of concept artwork, I made a like sell sheet. I posted it up on designer publisher speed dating Facebook group, and that day or the next day, well, I got some feedback from Brett, who was on here a couple months ago, and so I took some of that feedback and I put it on there. I took out all paragraphs and made them like bullet points, and I added a little more theme to it. And I think it was that day a publisher contacted me and said, can I have a print play of your game? I'd like to check it out. And there's a publisher I was familiar with who I have one of their games from Kickstarter. I kickstarted it, and so it was pretty cool. I sent them the PMP in April. Apparently, you're supposed to wait a really long time for publishers. But it's only been like 2 months since I sent it to him. And I know Brett said it took him about 3 months before anything happened with his. And reading, like James Matthew says, that you should wait, and maybe once every quarter or maybe once a month, you can send them just a request for an update. But you should wait at least a year before you tell them that I would like a final decision now, if they haven't given you one by then. So I don't know, that's kind of a...
I mean, the big thing about the gaming industry, it's who you know. And luckily, when I went to like Gen Con, I met a lot of people. And you're able to, find out who's the people who you need to know. And sometimes when you get in that pace, then you can kind of like, you end up being friends with some of these people and say, hey, what's going on? But when you're a first time game designer like that, that's a big thing. Is like that waiting part is a big thing, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do my own publishing, being my own publisher, to be able to control what I put out.
And Kickstarter is a thing that I've definitely considered. We were working towards a plan this past February to kickstart it, but then the holidays happened, and that was chaos for me for 3 months. So nothing happened there, and I just decided to push it back. Plus, we got some feedback that that the base game might lose replay value because of it being more simple after a while, and so we decided to start working on some modules, I call them, like mini expansions. So we have like a company powers one where you have these companies that they each have like a player power, and they're sitting out, and then as you make matches, when you make your first match, you get to take the card from the company whose color matches the color that you made your match with, and then you have that power. And then when you make chain matches, which is where you have more than one match, you lay down and you make more than one match at the same time. Yeah. Then you get to choose one of those two colors, and you can take that power, and you can either replace your power or replace somebody else's power with it. Wow. So and then we made the one that we played last night, which is the request one, where you have these different requests, and fulfilling those requests gives you multipliers and stuff. I don't know. I mean, if the publisher, if this publisher doesn't accept the game, then we may look that direction again. But that's tough too. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, especially for us indie game developers or designers. It's just it's tough all around because you're not known well enough to get funded the first day, and you want to get like 80% funded the first day, the first 24 hours, and if you don't get funded that much, you're probably not going to fund. Yeah, so I mean, one thing that I've actually been doing lately is I've actually started a review channel. You've got mail. And so and I'm trying to help out like other people, and I really want to get into doing previews for Kickstarters. I did a preview recently for a Kickstarter called Mad Love, and then I did a review for a game that somebody released on Kickstarter, or no, I mean on the Game Crafter, called Animus. And then I've got a few other Kickstarter previews that are in the mail, and I'm really wanting to get in that and just start helping, other people. And I don't know, I may be able to, if I decide to start to do my own Kickstarter in the future. I don't know, maybe leverage that, or at least get to know some people. Maybe I could get to know some publishers, and maybe I can use those relationships in some way there. But another reason why, so we're actually working on a sequel to this, which is it started out as an expansion, may still be an expansion, may wind up becoming its own game. It's much deeper. It still uses this core mechanic, but now you're using this mechanic to collect these energy cubes, and you're using the energy cubes to build your village, and each person has their little village, and the village, the reason you build in the village mostly is this village, you have to build buildings now to store the honey. Right. So whenever you collect it, you don't just get it. You have to have a building that will store it, and then you can collect those pieces. And this point track here goes away, so the only points you get is from the honey that you actually are able to keep. Cool. And that one uses 144 pieces, because 72 pieces, the game is just too short to be doing engine building. I could see this as a Calliope game or something like that. What? Calliope. And then
let's see if we can get you in touch with them.
We're also making another game, and it's interesting because our idea is that these games are basically story-wise in reverse order. So like this is the newest one. The other one, if we made it a separate game, then it would be this machine is not here, and there's just this tree, and you're working on building the community of the people that wind up working.
That's
with this.
really cool. I like that concept. That's cool.
And the other game that we've started developing is one. It's kind of like an area control, but you're going out. So you've got all these floating islands, and they're sitting all around the board. And you can move the islands around, and you move them to other islands, and you're trying to bring them all into your little archipelago. But you can't jump across gaps, so you have to be able to move an island next to another one, and then move over to it and move it. But you kind of have to keep them together while you move them back to your area. So you're slowly bringing them, and your opponents can come in, and they can steal your islands. And maybe even cause like there to be a gap, so now you're like you lose all these islands, and maybe they could even steal them from you. So you've got them in a nice little cluster, and then they just take one of them out and then move over and connect this section to their islands. So now it's all theirs. Yeah, so that's
So where can they find out more about Honey and Ruckus Games?
So I have a website that I don't utilize a ton because Facebook winds up giving me a whole lot more. People see it a lot more, but there's ruckusgames.com/honey. It has links to the Board Game Geek page for Honey, as well as the Facebook page, and I think maybe the Twitter account, which I also don't use as much as. And then there's Facebook group Honey Board Game at Honey Board Game.
Cool.
And then its Facebook page. It's Facebook group at Ruckus Games. And then I also have a Facebook page at Ruckus Releases for my video related stuff.
Very
and
nice.
a YouTube channel for that.
Cool. So awesome. I appreciate you coming by, Josh. I really appreciate it. I love bringing in tabletop game designers, because people think, oh yeah, you're a game designer. What video game did you make? I made a video game. Made a card game. Made a board game. But yeah, no, I'm really intrigued, and I still haven't gotten to play it, but I want to play it. Are you going to be at Game Expo? March 15th, 16th, and 17th next year.
Oh, next year. I probably. I'm going to try. I'm trying to get to the conventions. The Origins, I'm really upset. It's on Father's Day weekend, so I can't go because there's plans already for Father's Day weekend. But I'm trying to get to more conventions. I went to PAX South, very first time I've ever been to a board game convention. No, actually, I went to Game Expo last year. That was the first time I've been, and then I went to PAX South. And hopefully, from now on, I'm going to start actually bringing Honey. I didn't bring it to PAX South with me.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you'll see it at Game Expo come next year. But thanks for checking us out. I really appreciate it. I'm Vince. This is Josh. Geek Out Essay.
See ya.
See you later. Cool. Awesome.
I was waiting for the outro to finish.